Okay, welcome back. So I have a bit more art that we can use. I worked on that super fast, just so that we can fix a few issues with the game here. What I want to do first is I want to address a couple issues here that have just been hanging out. So first, I want to change this panel, which is just kind of giving us like game information. So I made a specific piece of art for it that I've already imported into this project. I called Game Info Panel. So that looks a little bit better. Next I want to change this goals panel. I made an inset for that. There it is. And I want to change this color back to white. And I'm going to do the same thing for that panel. Yeah, it's white already. All right, cool. All right, and then, oh, I forgot to come up with something for that button. That's okay though. All right, so I'm going to turn my fade panel off here for a second. Yep. And then I want to replace this top UI. So I have my top UI here. I made a new version of it, which I also called top UI, which has a larger goal section. However, I do need to move my little score bar. So I'm just going to move that down. I'm going to make my score display bigger. And then over here, I can make my goal display bigger too, to match my new UI. All right, cool. So I'm just gonna move these anchors right to where I want them. All right, so if I turn the fade panel back on, let's see how this looks. All right. Okay, so I can't really see the text, so I probably need to change those either to black or give them a black outline. I click OK. Yeah, that looks so much better up there. So let me do two things here really quickly. In my prefabs, I'm going to change my goal prefab from being semi-transparent to all the way transparent. And I'm going to change my, let's see here, my fade panel. I'm going to change my goal text. I'm going to keep it white, but I'm going to add an outline to it. So to add an outline, you can only do this on UI elements. Otherwise, you need to create like an outline shader, or just create a duplicate of your object and put it below and slightly bigger, and that'll make an outline. I can outline, and I want to make my outline a little bit bigger. I'm going to say it's 2 with a y offset of -2. What this is actually doing is recreating that image 4 times. 2 pixels away every time. Okay, cool. So that's easier to see. These not so much. So let's do the same thing with this text. I want an outline, and I'm going to leave my effect distance 1 to -1. I'm just going to make it a little bit darker. Let's try that out. Okay, cool. Way better now. Yeah, that's way better. Okay, cool. Now, let's actually get some scripting working here. To make our panel display what it's supposed to display, we're going to have to make a few changes in our scripts and then in the goal manager script. So go ahead and find the goal manager script. We already have this setup intro goals here, which is going to actually set up both goals. I should probably just change that to setup goals. Setup goals, because it's not just the intro screen anymore, it's both of them. Setup goals, setup goals. All right, cool. I don't need the update method here. Instead, I'm going to create a method that I'm going to use to change the text. And I'm just going to call this, it's going to be public because I'm going to need to call it from somewhere else. So public void update goals. And this is what I'm going to use to update the text on the goal, so it will tell the user how many they've gotten of each thing. So I also want to use this to keep track of whether the goals are complete or not. So I'm going to create an integer value that I'm going to call goals completed. And I'm going to initialize that at 0. Okay, next I want to loop through all the goals. So for integer I is 0, I is less than however many goals we have, which is going to be level goals.length I++. So I'm looking at all the goals. I want to check to see if the number of goals that have been collected is equal to the number of goals that are needed. So in order to do this, I'm going to, so we'll say, actually, sorry, hold on one second. Okay, I had forgotten that when I created this little container, I had the number currently collected in here. So all I really have to do is have some way of accessing that text. Now, the issue here is, okay, sorry for that weird cut. Now, the issue here is that the level goals, as I'm storing it, are just these goals themselves, which are just the container. I'm not actually referencing that game object. So I'm going to create something that can hold those game objects. So I could do this as an array, but I'm going to use a list instead. I'm going to say public list, and I want this to be a list of not the goal objects, but the goal panel script, because that's what I'm going to be referencing here. So this is going to be a list of goal panel, and I'm going to call this current goals, and this is a new list of goal panels. Okay, so the reason I'm creating a list here is because now I have something that's a reference to the actual objects in the scene, so I'll be able to change their text to reflect it. So if I want to go down here, I'm going to say if level goals I dot number collected. Actually, I don't need to do that yet. I don't know why I keep thinking I need to do that right away. So all I have to do really is change the text. So I'm going to say current goals I dot what do I want to do? Oh, yeah. Dot goal. I called it goal text, didn't I, in the goal panel? Oh, no, I called it this text. Okay. Dot this text. Dot text. So this is always kind of weird. Whenever you're accessing a text object, you have to actually access the text part of the text object. It is weird for people. Is equal to, and I want it to be an empty string plus level goals I dot number collected. So I want it to be empty string and then the number collected plus slash plus level goals I dot number needed. Okay, cool. So that's going to change the goal itself to be, or sorry, not the goal, the text to be however many they've collected out of how many they needed. But what happens if they've collected as many as they needed? So let's say if level goals I dot number collected is greater than or equal to level goals I dot number needed. So if we've collected more than we needed, then we're going to say that this goal is complete. So goals completed plus plus. So we know that we've completed this goal. And then we just wanted to say, like instead of saying 6 out of 5 or 7 out of 5, we wanted to just say 5 out of 5. So current goals I dot text, or dot this text dot text is equal to, and I'm just gonna copy this line here because I don't want to retype it. And And instead of being number collected, it's going to be number needed. Cool. And then at the end, we're going to check to see if we've collected all the goals. So if goals completed is, let's do greater than or equal to however many goals we have, level goals dot length. And then right now we're just going to do a debug message. You win! Exclamation point. What's that? Okay, cool. So a couple things here. First of all, this current goals, this doesn't have anything in it yet. So I'm going to add to it the actual goal that's in the game scene. So once I assign that panel equals game goal, like get component panel, I'm going to also add it to current goals. So current goals dot add game goal. Actually, not game goal panel rather, because game goal is the game object. Come on now. I start typing PA and it thinks I want particle system sort order when there's already a variable called panel. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so I'm going to save this. Okay, cool. So this doesn't add any functionality yet because we're not calling update goals. The other thing I want to do really quickly is I want to do something to compare if it's a goal, like if we should add to the goal. And so I'm going to call this method here compare goal, which is going to compare the object that's being destroyed to the goals. And if it matches any of the goals, then we're going to add to that goal's number collected. So we're going to call this public void compare goal. And this is going to take an argument in here. This is going to need a string goal to compare. And what I want to do is I want to cycle through all of the goals. So for I is 0, I is less than level goals dot length, I plus plus. Then I want to check to see if that goal to compare is the same as the match type, I think is what I called it. Match value. So if goal to compare is equal to level goals I dot match value, then I'm going to take level goals I dot number collected and increase it. Okay, cool. So now I need to have some place where I call these. And if it's a regular piece, then the most sensible place to call that would be in the board method, because that's where I'm destroying them. So I'm going to go back to my board method here, and I'm going to make a reference to my goal manager. So this is going to be a private goal manager, and I'm going to call it goal manager. Then I'm going to complete the reference in the start method. Find object of type goal manager. All right, cool. So I got my goal manager set up. Now I'm going to go to where I destroy the, stop that. I'm going to go to where I destroy the pieces down here. So check to make bombs, destroy matches at, right in here. So I just have to do it before I actually destroy the dot. I'm going to do it before the sound manager. So I'm going to do something really similar to that. I'm going to say if goal manager is not equal to null, checking to make sure it's there, then I want to first compare the tag. So goal manager dot compare goal, and the string I'm going to send in is the piece that we're currently destroying's tag. So all dots column row dot tag, and I like to also just make sure that this is being read as a string, so .toString. It's going to tell me that that's redundant though, but I disagree sometimes with Visual Studio. So first I want to compare the goal, which means that I'll increment the goal if I need to, and then I want to update the goals. So goal manager dot update goals. All right, cool. So if I save this and I pop back into Unity here, I'm going to hit play as soon as it's done compiling. And that slides in. So I need 5 blue, 5 red, and 5 green. So there, I'm at 3 out of 5 on my green now. 3 out of 5 on my blue. I'm just gonna play really quickly here until I reach my goals. So I might speed up this footage because as much as I like playing games like these, I can imagine it's pretty boring for people on the outside. So I'm going to speed this up. Okay, cool. So if you can see that right now, I've got 5 of each of these, and they all read 5 out of 5. And then down here, I've got a little debug statement telling me I won. So ideally, what we'd want to happen is for that, instead of just creating a debug statement, we would trigger a new animation state where first of all, we'd lose control of the board, our screen would fade to white, that goal panel would pop down saying, congratulations, and it would tell me how many stars I won, and all that stuff. And then I'd be able to click a button and move on to the level select again. Yeah, there's one more thing I want to talk about really quickly here, and it doesn't really have to do with the goals. It has to do with the animation that we didn't talk about last time. So for this animation we have, if I hit play here, as this slides down, it's fine. It looks way better than what we had before, but we can juice that a bit. We can make it nicer. So I'm going to select my panel here, and I'm going to go to my animation controller, and I want to make sure I'm on my slide in here. I'm going to make this animation a bit longer. So I'm going to highlight these keyframes here from 0.50. So I'm going to make sure they're all blue. I'm going to hit Control C, and then I'm going to scrub out to 1.2 seconds, and I'm going to paste them there. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to do a little like squash and stretch, which makes things look so much better. So I'm going to go into record mode here. I'm going to jump to 1 minute, and I'm going to squash this a bit as it first comes in, as if it's being compressed, and then I'm going to stretch it, and then I'm going to bring it back to what it was. So it's going to come in here, it's going to squash, stretch, back to normal. So here at 1 second while I'm recording, I'm going to set my scale to something. Now, whenever you're playing with your scale here to do squash and stretch, you want to make sure that the product, meaning if you multiply these 3 values, is always going to add up to be 1. So I'm going to make my x a little wider, say 1.2, and then I need to know 1.2 times what is 1. Well, 1.2 times 0.83, and if you don't have a calculator, use that. And then I'm going to go to 1 minute 10, or not 10 seconds, but 1.1, or whatever it is, here. And I'm going to reverse these. I'm going to make the y 0.83 and the x 1.2. Or sorry, other way around. X 0.83 and y 1.2. Now, Unity is... So this last one doesn't have anything to kind of move it back. I'm going to move these back to 1 and 1. So if I play that animation, see how it gets bigger as it comes down? I don't want that. I want it to get bigger as it hits. As like a, I don't know, like an impact. So I'm going to scrub here to these keyframes, and here I'm going to set my scale to 1 by 1. And then I'm going to hit play. And that's kind of cool. It gives it, I mean, and you can exaggerate this if you want. You just want to make sure that the product of these numbers is is 1. So for example, if I were to super exaggerate this, let's say I want to make my x scale 1.4. So 1 divided by 1.4 is 0.71. So if I make this 1.4, this should be 0.71. And because I'm doing this to the container, see how it's stretching everything else inside of it? When I go over here, I'm going to make this 0.71 and 1.4. And then back here to 1 and 1. So let's see. Alright, so let's actually see that in action. I'm going to go out of record here. I'm going to dock my animation controller back up there so I can see more of my game, and I'll hit play. And let's see what this looks like now. Oop. Come on now. I barely saw any animation in that. It's next to nothing. What the heck? Did I forget to save or something? Just move this down. Come here. Alright, well, let's spread it out a bit then. I'm going to grab these keys. I'm going to pull them to 1.5 seconds. Grab these keys. I'm going to pull them to 120, and I'm going to pull these to 105. Alright, let's try that now. That is so weird. Game info slide in. Okay, so here's what the problem was. If I go into my animator here, in my settings, I had an exit time. So I'm going to turn off that exit time. And so the exit time was interrupting it when it was partway into its animation. So now if I hit play, except it's never exiting now. Awesome. Okay. So game info idle. I don't want any conditions. Oh, it needs to have an exit time. So I'm going to make my exit time 1.30. How about? So my transition here, give it an exit time this time. 1, and then we'll say that the transition duration is 0.3, because together that's going to be what I want here, I think. So 0.3 or 0.5 maybe. Time is weird. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Okay. Now let's hit play. Okay. Unity, you're so weird. Let's keep this a fixed duration. Let's go here. Okay. Let's try that now. I was changing the transition between the two. There we go. Alright, cool. So here's what was happening. I hate this part of 2D animations. This is showing me going from slide in to idle. If I turn off the exit time, it's never going to exit unless I add a condition. So I want to keep the exit time on. I adjusted it so that here is where it stops at about 1.5 seconds. So I made sure that at 1.5 seconds it's already in game info idle. So now if I hit play. Now, here's the good news. You can animate anything in Unity like this. So if you want your UI elements to come in like in a spiral, that's cool. You can go ahead and do that. If you want them to slide in like we did, if you want them to speed up as they go, so like you can ease them in. I can go back into record. I can take these elements here, and I want to go somewhere in between. And I'm going to move this so that it's closer to where it wants to be at that point, which is going to actually speed it up a little. And then I'm going to go up here and make it farther away, which is going to increase the speed it has in between those points. So now it makes more of like an ease in, like that. So I don't know. You don't have to do anything like this. This is all extra. It's just a way to add some interesting feel to the game, to make it more interesting to look at. So, but here we go. We've got our goals working, and once they're... Oh, yeah, I forgot one more. So this is if they're piece goals. Well, let's look at what happens if they're breakable goals. So if we go to Goal Manager, I'm going to have this not be the blue candy. Instead, I'm going to have it be the squircle that I'm using for the jelly. I'm going to need a match value here too. Now, when I made the jellies in my piece prefab here, my breakable tiles, I never tagged them because I didn't need to. I'm going to tag these right now. So I'm going to go to untagged, click add tag, hit a plus here, and the tag for these is breakable. And I'm going to actually apply that tag. All right, cool. Now in my goal, I'm going to say that this is breakable. Now, in order to have this, let's change this from 5 to 2. And that means I need to actually have some of these in the scene. So on my board layout, I'm going to go from, I'll leave it at 6. But those 2 that were random in the middle, these are going to be breakable tiles instead of blank tiles. So now I have 2 breakables in there. I have 2 that I need. Now, if I just hit play here, and this panel slides in, I click OK. I need 2 breakable tiles. My breakable tiles are right here. I should make them render on top of the background, but we'll deal with that in a second. Let's see, there we go. Sweet. So, actually, let me make these so that they don't take 3 hits. Let's make them only take 1 hit. And let's put them at 0 in the layer. I'm changing a lot of stuff here. I feel like I'm going really fast. If you guys are confused, please let me know. So I'm going to hit play. In comes that. So it didn't change its position in the layer. That's weird. Anyway. So, okay. So the one time I'm trying to get pieces right here, I can't. Oh, okay, cool. So if I do that, you'll see the breakable tile went away, but it didn't affect this at all. So what I want to do now is I need to take a look at how we were breaking the tiles in order to have that affect my goals. So in here, in my background tile script, so go ahead and open that up. In my background tile script, I'm going to have a reference to the goal manager. So I'm going to do private goal manager. I'm going to call this goal manager. And I'm going to assign that in the start method. Goal manager equals find object of type. Goal manager. And then if hit points are less than or equal to 0, what I want to do is I want to check to see if goal manager is not equal to null. And then I want to say goal manager dot compare goal, and I want to compare it to this dot game object dot tag. And then I want to update the goals. Goal manager dot update goals. And that'll work for the jellies now. So if I go back into Unity here, I'm going to hit play. And as soon as it's done compiling, it'll play. Move my animation window out of the way here. Back to game. Click OK. OK. So now, if I destroy those 2 pieces, it updates right there. and it's still keeping track of everything else for my goal. So if I get how many reds I need and how many greens I need, it still triggers my end game stuff. So yeah, we're going to move on to end and win conditions, which means that we need to have something that keeps track of either time or moves up here. We're going to do that next. And then after that, we'll talk about having multiple boards that you can store as scriptable objects. And then after that, we'll do a level select scene. So we're getting close to the end here. We almost have a completely workable product. So congratulations for staying with this so long. You all are doing awesome. Have yourselves a wonderful day.